On an unseasonably cool, drizzly summer night in Cleveland, Corey Kluber cooled off the Astros bats to earn his first win since late May. Now Houston gets a look at Trevor Bauer, who no-hit them through 6 innings in his first start of the season at Minute Maid Park. Bauer won't be hitting tonight, but Jason Kipnis will be. Next on Sports Time Ohio. The calendar says July, but it feels like October. Temperature only in the 60s in downtown Cleveland today. It's the Indians and the Houston Astros squaring off in Game 3 of their 4-game series. Hi again, everyone. Matt Underwood alongside Rick Manning. You know, the Indians have been blessed, really, to have Michael Brantley on this ball club for the last several years, because when you talk about consistency, it's not doing it for a month. It's not doing it for a couple of weeks. Since the start of 2013, Michael Brantley has batted .370 with runners in scoring position. That's getting it done.
And he does it every day, and you're right, it's for 6 months, and Michael Brantley was at it again last night. It's been a while, but Michael had a changeup for a base hit, and then he hits a home run, his first home run since May 14th against the Cardinals. That gives him an RBI, and he has 37 games where he has driven in a run, which is best in baseball, and he added another hit last night. So it's nice to see Michael get going. He scored a couple runs, and they won only 2-0.
Well, they have a chance to take the series lead tonight against Houston. They've got Trevor Bauer on the mound. We've talked so much about the Indians' difference between home and road. And Trevor Bauer may be the poster boy for that big difference between what they do at home and what they do on the road.
Yeah, he is when you look at his numbers night and day. But in his first start of the year against Houston, he had rough patches early in the game with his fastball, but he ended up striking out a career high. 6 no-hit innings. He had it out in. They had a no-hitter going into the 9th inning, and you can see the home-road splits, unbelievable. 4.5 runs difference when it comes to ERA. Second worst at home, and second best on the road. So he's got to kick it into gear and pitch better in this ballpark.
All right, when we come back, Andre Knott will join us to talk about the efficient manner in which Trevor Bauer dismantled the Pittsburgh Pirates his last time out. Cleveland Indians baseball is brought to you by W.B. Mason, the official office supplier of the Cleveland Indians. By McDonald's, I'm loving it. By your local Toyota dealers. Visit buyatoyota.com. Toyota, let's go places. And by the injury lawyers at Elk & Elk, proud sponsors of the Cleveland Indians. Call 1-800-ELK, Ohio. Has to hurry. The throw. He got him. Brantley drives one deep right field. She is gone. Swing and a miss. He struck him out with some high heat. The Indians win it by a final of 2-0. All right, welcome back here to Progressive Field. Indians and the Astros getting ready to continue the series. It'll be game 3 of a 4-gamer. And let's go down to the field right now and bring in Andre Knott, who has more on the efficiency of Trevor Bauer. Can he bring that home, though?
We hope so, Matt. Most when we talk about the Trevor Bauer start in Pittsburgh, we'll all talk about batting stance, right? Or rain. He told me the one thing that stood out for him was the efficiency he had pitching the ball. He had 74 pitches in the 7th inning. And he looked at me and he says, look, I'm usually in the 5th inning at 74 pitches. He goes, most starters that are in the top half, the number ones, they can throw 120 pitches a game. He goes, Tito won't let me do that yet. He goes, I want to pitch into the 9th inning. I have to become more efficient. I was able to do that in Pittsburgh. And after watching Corey Kluber last night against this Astros lineup, he realizes this team is going to foul pitches off, and they're going to try to get him deep in the count early. His job is to turn it in and do the same thing he did in Pittsburgh. Forget the batting stances. He wants to be efficient and pitch into the 8th or 9th inning. That's what Trevor Bauer wants to do tonight.
I like that thought process, because anytime Bauer says, you have to do something different or make a change, he's not afraid to try it and do it. So if he can be more efficient, less pitches, good for him, because he seems to get better as the game goes on.
Well, and it's been an interesting series thus far. First 2 games, Houston came out and swung the bats extremely well in the opener, knocked Carlos Carrasco around. But that's not the way this series has gone for the most part so far this year. It's been low scoring. It's been pitching, and whether it's a key hit or a mistake, that's normally what has determined the outcome in these games between Cleveland and Houston so far.
Yeah, I think Houston as a team, if you make your pitches, they have zones, just like any team does. You'll hold them down. You'll keep them in the ballpark. If you keep them in the ballpark, you got a pretty good chance. But, you make mistakes. That's what Carrasco did in Game 1. He pitched from behind in the count, and when he fell behind, they took advantage, and he didn't have his good stuff on Monday. So hopefully Bauer comes out here, and he's able to control his game in this ballpark. His last 2 starts in this ballpark have not been very good. The last one was against Detroit. He went 3 innings, 9 hits, 7 runs. Start before that here against Seattle, 3 2/3 innings, 4 hits, 6 runs. So he's going to have to be a lot more efficient than that.
Well, Bauer's just about ready to take the field. He's checking the clock, still a couple of minutes before official game time. So we'll take a look at our game time temperature, brought to you by Windows Systems. 67 degrees.
That's unbelievable.
On July the 8th. And we haven't seen the sun.
Well, hold on. We're not complaining. Jim Folks, listen, forget about it.
Well, the Indians director of ballpark operations.
He's down there behind the plate.
He was all over us last night when we walked out. He said, what, do you want dry or do you want warm? You can't have both.
Yeah.
So it is dry tonight. That's the good news. As the Indians take the field behind Trevor Bauer in the home whites. Let's get a look at the lineup he will face. For A.J. Hinch and the Houston Astros, brought to you by Toyota. Jose Altuve in the leadoff spot. Preston Tucker bats second. Carlos Correa will hit third. Evan Gattis batting cleanup. He's the DH. Then it's Colby Rasmus, followed by Chris Carter. Marwin Gonzalez, Jason Castro, and Jake Marisnick round it out.
And tonight's Northern Ohio Honda starting pitcher, Trevor Bauer, making start number 17 on the year. Coming off a start in Pittsburgh, as we talked about, very efficient. 6 1/3 innings, just 3 hits, 2 runs. He gave up a home run and has allowed a homer in each of his last 3 starts, 4 total in 10 of his last 13. But Trevor Bauer 2-0 against the Houston Astros in his career, covering 12 innings, only 4 hits, 8 walks, 20 strikeouts. You remember back in his first start of the year, he had 6 no-hit innings against Houston and a career-high 11 strikeouts in that game. In that game, his fastball was all over the place. He walked 5 guys, and I think they were in the first 2 innings, and then he reeled it in and was very good after that point. So we'll see how he reacts tonight. There's his line from that ball game. 5 walks, 11 strikeouts, 111 pitches in just 6 innings. They had a no-hitter going into the 9th that was broken up. Nick Hagedorn gave up a home run after 1 was out, and that was the only hit in the ball game. Now let's set the defense behind him tonight. It is brought to you by Chrysler. It'll be Brantley, Bourne, and Moss in the outfield. Urshela, Lindor, Kipnis, Santana on the infield. On Carlos Santana, bobblehead night. Yan Gomes is doing the catching.
The umpires here tonight, Paul Nauert will call the balls and strikes. Ed Hickox is at first. Mike Estabrook at second. The crew chief, Dana DeMuth, down at third. Jose Altuve steps in, and we are ready to go. Altuve, the all-star starter at second base for the American League, and Jason Kipnis also named to the all-star team. So you've got last year's batting champ in Altuve and potentially this year's batting champ in Kipnis, though he's got some stiff competition in that category. Altuve takes it's up high. Ball one. Missed again, 2-0.
That'll give me a chance to whip out this number here. After a 2-0 count, Bauer is the best in baseball with a batting average. They're just 6 for 47 off him. He has a way to come back. He doesn't give in when you compare him to some of the other pitchers. We'll get back into it later, but he usually has a way to come back and get guys when he's down in the count 0-2.
Bullseye, he's in there, 3-1. Ground ball in the hole, and it's just by a diving Lindor and a base hit for Altuve.
Go ahead, add another one to the list, Tommy.
On a 3-1 pitch, Altuve pulls it in the hole. And the Astros have their leadoff man aboard.
Sounded like he cracked his bat right there. He went out to pull that ball, and he's going to get it into left field. Even if Lindor dives for that ball, catches it, he's not going to throw out Altuve. So Houston starts with a base knock.
Preston Tucker, he's had a good series. Of course, he had a 4-hit game in the series opener. Overall, 6 for 9 with a home run.
And he was taken from a couple of hits yesterday, too.
Bauer delivers in there for a strike. Well, the thing with Altuve, who's down at first base, Rick, I mean, I'm sure there are Astros fans who say, boy, he's really fallen off from a year ago if you just look at batting average. But I know you've alluded a number of times that batting average in and of itself, if you just look at that number alone, can be maybe misleading or overrated. Altuve has now 95 hits. That's among the league leaders. He's behind Kipnis and Fielder, who lead the league with 110. So he's still getting the hits.
Right.
Just the overall average isn't where it was a year ago.
Well, and you know what? Pitchers are not going to give in to him and groove him a pitch to hit. They're going to make him walk a little bit more, and they don't want to walk him because he can run.
And he doesn't want to walk either.
No, but that's my point. He doesn't want to walk, and until he starts taking them, maybe he's swinging at pitches that normally, he wouldn't swing at. He wants to hit his way on. He doesn't want to walk.
He's only walked 20 times, and he's going to have, before it's all said and done, he'll have over 600 at bats this year.
Right. No, he's the igniter for this offense.
Tucker almost chased after. Altuve breaks for second. Gomes throw, not in time. Lindor tried to dig it out.
Well, there's a case in point right there. He sees that ball go into the dirt, and he takes off on the wild pitch from Bauer, which is the 7th wild pitch. He reads it well. He's gone. No chance. They wouldn't have had a chance with a good throw. Although you could see his feet were right in the way of the bag. He couldn't get to the base. Lindor was almost sitting in front of it.
The 1-2 pitch. Oh, awfully good. Bauer's probably wondering what was wrong with it.
Take a look.
Guess it was a little inside.
Yeah, from our camera angle there, I think it is because that's not directly behind it, but it looked like it might have been a ball within.
Swing and a miss, and Tucker's down on strikes, 1 away.
Let's take a look at this curveball on our Nissan pitch tracker. Right on the outside edge, nicely done. You can see the spin on it. He swings through it. He can't move the runner along, so a big out there. Strikeout number 1 for Bauer and out number 1.
Upstairs, that one almost took off to the backstop.
Yeah, there are times when Trevor has a tough time commanding his fastball or reeling it in. It takes him a little while to get a feel for it. But when he has it, and he has it early, he's really tough.
That's going to get out of play on the right side.
So far in this series, they've been able to crowd Correa, where they've been able to make him really try to work those hands. Seems like they don't want to give him a lot of swinging room.
No 1-1. Inside corner.
Go. Stay right in there.
Well, whatever plan they've had, Rick, it's worked so far.
Yeah.
0 for 8.
He walked in his very first at-bat. He had a good at-bat against Carrasco to a 3-2. He walked, and that's the only time he's been on.
Bauer checks the runner. Altuve breaks for third, and he bounced it about 4 feet in front of the plate. Yeah. So Altuve's at third with his 25th stolen base of the year. He leads the league in that category.
You talk about picking the right pitch to go on. That was a spiked curveball out in front of the plate, and there's absolutely nothing that Gomes could do with that one. So Altuve goes cruising into third base.
Infield in, 2-2 pitch. Wow, nice grab by Gomes. That looked like it was headed to the backstop, and he just reached out and backhanded a ball in the dirt.
Yeah, how many times do you see a clean pick like that? That went right into the webbing of that catcher's mitt. That's a good thing. That was a tough one there.
Well, now he's run the count full to Correa. Bauer's 16th pitch of the inning coming up. Swing and a miss. He ran the heater up around the letters, and Correa chased after it. Back-to-back strikeouts for Bauer.
Took advantage of the youth right there. He wanted to get that guy in from third base, and he helps out Bauer. That's ball 4, but it was a well executed pitch by Bauer, just above the belt and inside. If he takes it, it's a ball, but you want to get that run home. He goes down as the second out.
Popped him up back to the screen, and Gomes can't get to it. Bauer deals, and Gaddis hammers it to deep left field. Forget about it. Onto the home run porch, and the Astros will play from in front as they lead it 2-0. Gaddis with his 15th home run of the year. RBIs number 52 and 53.
Matt, I'm going to tell you, he got on top of a high fastball, and I mean, he tomahawked that ball out of the ballpark. He went out and hooked it. I can't believe it. I want to see where this pitch was. It looked like it was eyes. Look at that.
Wow.
That's like a softball swing. I mean, he got that ball and was able to get down on top of it, and that thing shot out of here. I am amazed. For Gaddis, his 15th home run.
That's the 17th first-inning home run allowed by the Indians this year. And that has been a recurring problem, I guess.
Fourth straight game, too, that Bauer's given up a homer.
Yeah, in particular at home. You know, they've been outscored by a bunch in the first inning at home all season long.
Yeah, we've talked about it a lot.
Overall, including the road games, the Indians have now been outscored 53-31 in the first inning. At home, it's now 30-13 in the first inning.
Boy, he got the second strikeout. I'm still amazed that Gaddis hit that pitch out of the ballpark. I really am. The White Bear, he got on top of it.
El Oso Blanco.
I'll tell you what, he got that right paw and slapped it onto the home run porch. Wow.
Colby Rasmus fouls one back. Full count. And the payoff pitch. Strike three called. Bauer strikes out three, but Gaddis launches a two-run homer to the porch in left field on a ball that was maybe eye high. 2-0 Astros. Indians coming to bat. Let's take a look at Terry Francona's starting lineup, brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Kipnis, Lindor, and Brantley in the top third. Then it's Murphy, Santana, and Gomes, Moss, Urshela, and Bourne.
Dan Straley, Northern Ohio Honda starting pitcher for the Astros tonight. 26-year-old right-hander set to make his second start this year. He was called up, on July 3rd to make a start. Came over from the Cubs with Luis Valbuena for Dexter Fowler in January. He was a 24th round draft pick by Oakland back in 2009.
Took a little something off, and Kipnis swings over the top. It's 0-2. Jason tries to shoot at the left, but it's foul. Kipnis batting .336, third best in the league. Miguel Cabrera leading the league, but he's on the DL. I wonder how long he'll remain atop. If he's out for 6 weeks, eventually
he'll fall out.
He'll fall out of it because he won't have enough plate appearances. Prince Fielder, 8 points currently ahead of Jason Kipnis right now, 344.
Fielder's a guy that he just continues to get multi-hit games as well. He's amazing.
Well, he and Kipnis began the night tied with 110 hits each on the year. But Kipnis still leads the American League in doubles with 27. Prince Fielder is the only American Leaguer with more multiple hit games than Kip, who has 31, Fielder with 36. There's a smash just over the bag and fair down the third base line. Rasmus cuts it off. No, he doesn't. It gets by him, and Kip's on his way to second. He'll round the bag. He'll head for third. Here's the throw. It's cut off, and Jason Kipnis is standing on third to lead off the bottom of the first.
He did a great job of staying on that pitch. 0-2, and he just hit it right over the bag at third. Rasmus was over on the line playing him, and what happened, he jammed himself into the wall. He tried to beat the baseball to the wall. He didn't do it. It ricocheted off. That enabled Kipnis to get a triple.
Got to be a triple.
He's got a double and a no. That's got to be a triple. It's got to
be a triple. I mean, he never even got to the wall to try to cut that off. And he's going full tilt.
Yeah, he was going full tilt, and he tried to beat the ball to the corner. It didn't get there, and you're right. I agree. It should have been a triple. There shouldn't be an error, and I'm sure he'll change it. So back comes Cleveland.
Now Francisco Lindor fouls it back. Marwin Gonzalez at third base. He was in on the grass with Lindor at the plate. Carter, the first baseman, now backs up defensively. We'll see Gonzalez. He'll probably stay right about there. Everybody else back normal depth. Outside. 1-1. Lindor 2 for 9 in the series.
Well, he had Kipnis down 0-2, so you remain patient here. They're giving you an RBI. Just don't hit it to the third baseman.
Smash to Altuve. He'll take the out at first. And the Indians get on the board. Lindor with RBI number 7 on the year as Kipnis comes home on the play. 2-1 Houston here in the first.
Let's check the Astros defense, brought to you by Chrysler. In the outfield, it's Rasmussen left, Marisnick in center, Tucker in right. Gonzalez at third, Correa is short. Altuve at second, Carter is at first with Castro catching.
Upstairs. You know, the other interesting thing about Fielder, Prince Fielder, with regards to he and Jason Kipnis, Kipnis now has 38 extra base hits. Fielder's not even among the top 10 in extra base hits.
Yeah.
So most of his hits this year have been singles.
He's not trying to hit the ball and drive it to right center. And you figured that going to Texas, if he was healthy, he'd try to get it up there because that's where the ball carries a lot. He's taking his base hits and he's staying inside the ball.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
Just interesting because you think of him as being that big swing power guy is going to hit a bunch of home runs, but not this year.
Well, he changed a little bit, I guess, with that neck problem.
Rasmus will make the catch on Brantley for out number 2. Keys to the game brought to you by Wayside Furniture. Play from in front. Well, they're already down before they came to bat here tonight, so it'll be a come-from-behind situation, which has not been a good one for the Indians this year. When the opposition scores first, the Indians are just 12-36 on the year. And it looked like Bauer was going to cruise through that first inning until Gaddis somehow got on top of that high pitch and drove it out of there. Straley's 0-1 pitch is fouled out of play to the left. David Murphy awaits the 0-2 and a bouncer right back to Straley. The inning is over. Jason Kipnis with the leadoff double, triple, whatever. He scores, and the Indians are down a run. Corey Kluber taking this one in. He's got a little extra headgear there, huh?
I don't know.
Andre, what do you got down there?
That's Kluber just showing his personality and having some fun. When I asked him what it was, he told me he did a shake and said it's his Johnny Cueto. And if you know Cueto from Cincinnati wears that over his braids.
Yeah, the do-rag, huh?
Yeah, the football players keep the sweat out of their head. I think that was a way for Kluber to come and loosen everybody up before the game. What a move.
Well, you know what? I just was reading that a lot of speculation that Johnny Cueto may have made his last start for the Cincinnati Reds.
It was a dandy. That two-hit shutout, and he beat Scherzer.
You think they'll move him that fast, though? I mean, that's just...
I don't know.
I mean, you would think if you're going to trade a guy like that, you would hold him right to the wire and make sure you get the best offer.
Yeah, but he's a free agent at the end of the year, so what he could go anywhere.
No, what I'm saying, I'd wait till July 31st before I thought about trading him. I'd make sure I got the best offer.
Well, it depends on what you're looking for, I guess, if you're Cincinnati.
Now the 2-1 to Chris Carter. Good fastball to even the count. They have changed the ruling on Jason Kipnis' ball. It is a triple officially.
That's what we had it marked down for, so we don't have to make a change.
Here's the 2-2. Wow. Another close one. And a full count for Carter. He was 0 for 3 in the opener with 3 strikeouts.
It's already 3 full counts now for Trevor Bauer as well.
You find his nitro zone, though, and Carter can hit him a long way.
Yes, he can. Unfortunately, he can swing and miss, but when he hits it, he can hit it anywhere, any part of the ballpark.
Off-speed pitch, popped him up. Shallow center, Bourne rolling in to make the grab, 1 down. This was the leadoff hit by Kipnis. Originally ruled a double, but after further review.
Yeah, it made sense. He might have thought that he missed the ball or it hit his glove. but it actually beat him to the wall. He thought Rasmus was playing him over that way, and I know exactly what he was thinking. He was going to cut it off.
Yeah.
He didn't do it. So he got
there.
beat by the wall. Kipnis hit that ball harder than he thought. Got by him out there. So, yeah, that's a good call. He took one more look at the replay and made a change. Good call.
It's funny how, you could see the wheel spinning as Rasmus ran over. I'm going to hold him to a single.
Right.
Instead, he played it into a triple.
Into a triple, absolutely. And that's probably not knowing this ballpark as well. He played and made a couple of nice plays in center field yesterday. He was, Rasmus was in center field. He started Monday in left field, but I'm surprised he didn't go over there and put a kick save on it and try and keep it in front of him.
1 ball, 1 strike here for Marwin Gonzalez.
Sometimes you don't realize that an outfielder, you're going to try and cut off a ball on the ground. It's going a lot faster than you think it is. And by the time you get there, it's by you, and you go, oh, no, what did I do? You know you made a mistake.
And I don't know that it matters, Rick, but you get down into that corner area where he was, and it hits on that rubberized track. It's not going to slow it down at all.
Right, that picks it up. And that's another point I wanted to make, too, with these fields in such great condition. The grass, it's almost like AstroTurf anyway. They're so quick.
That's foul. Rasmus is talking to George Springer, who's unfortunately for Houston on the DL, very good young player and a center fielder, and I think he's probably might be talking about that.
Very
that type
athletic
of
player, yes. Springer doesn't look too into it. He was yawning.
He did before. Santana eventually calls everybody off.
Well, it's Carlos Santana bobblehead night. Let him have one.
2 down.
When they're converging, it was on his side of the field. Watch. In comes Urshela. Look at Bauer. Bauer, get out of the way. Let the guys. Trevor wanted it first.
Now you can hear Santana.
That's okay. Get after it. Someone catch it. Doesn't matter who.
Jason Castro, 1 out of 5 in the series with a run scored. Popped up and out of play. With 2 down, the 0-1 pitch. Missed inside. Castro with 44 home runs. He's second all-time in Astros history in that category as a catcher. Alan Ashby has the club record with 69. Bouncer to first. Santana will flip it to Bauer, and the inning is over. Middle of the second, Houston 2, Cleveland 1. $13 district tickets presented by Sports Time Ohio are going quickly, so get yours today. The tickets are available only at Indians.com/district ticket. Bottom of the second, Carlos Santana, Yan Gomes, Brandon Moss due up for the Tribe. Santana with a hit in each of the first two games of the series, going 3 for 7. And a first baseman, Carter, will take it himself. One down.
Well, get live Indians baseball all season long with MLB.com at bat on your smartphone or tablet. You can stay connected with live radio broadcasts, stats, breaking news, and more. Download MLB.com at bat, the #1 app for live baseball.
Yan Gomes looks at a ball outside. Ground ball right at the third baseman, Marwin Gonzalez, who flips it over. 2 down. So after the leadoff triple by Kipnis, Dan Straley has set down 5 in a row. And that will bring up Brandon Moss. Moss coming off a rough game last night, in which he went 0 for 4 and struck out all 4 times.
Yeah, Tommy told me he had 8 swings and misses, so that was not a good night, but that's well behind him now. He's thinking, let's go. I've got to do some damage tonight.
Back out of play. In the dirt, try to get him to chase after one. Yeah, it was close. You could see the home plate umpire, Paul Nauer, just kind of shake his head. Castro was trying to frame it in there.
Well, he held it for a while, but I think it's upstairs. It was, boy, that was a pretty good-looking pitch. A little high.
That's outside, and Moss draws a 2-out walk. Giovanni Urshela will get a chance with 2 outs now. Urshela 1 for 6 against the Astros. He takes a strike. Urshela with a hit in 14 out of his last 16 games. Out of play to the right. That one got a piece of Castro. Pretty good chunk of him, actually.
Well, it did, and it stayed there for a while. I don't know if it got stuck. It looked like I didn't see the ball drop for a while. Let's see what happened. Oh, it did. It got stuck between his. He pinned it between his ear and his chest protector. Holy smokes! I didn't think. Yeah, it deflected off that protector and it got stuck there. Little stinger.
The 0-2. Urshela swings and misses, and the inning is over. 2 complete from Progressive Field. The Astros 2 and the Indians 1. Inning. Jake Marisnick will lead it off. He's the number 9 hitter for the Astros. After Marisnick, top of the order, Jose Altuve. Marisnick 1 for 3 in the series opener. Did not play last night. Swing and a miss. Marisnick was on the DL from June 19th through the 4th of July due to a left hamstring strain. He's not getting cheated, is he?
No, he's not.
Those first 2 cuts.
You know, he got off to a really good start this year, too.
Well, when he went on the DL, he was ranked among the top 10 in the American League in stolen bases.
Yeah. They got to mix and match with Springer out. He'll get some time in center field. We saw Rasmus. Tucker's going to be out there.
To third but foul.
Presley, who played a little left field last night. So they've got some work to do to, fill that void until they get the big boy back.
Yeah, and that's why all eyes will be on the Astros front office over the next couple of weeks. What will they do?
Well, yeah, because, their lead, it's down to 2.5 over the Angels. So
to center field on a base hit. Astros get their leadoff man aboard for the second time in 3 innings.
Like a hanging breaking ball there.
The injury report is brought to you by the injury lawyers at Elk & Elk. And for the Indians, Nick Hagedorn was put on the DL today with a back problem. And Kyle Crockett got the call back from AAA Columbus. It'll be his 3rd tour of duty with the Cleveland this year. Well, speaking of the bullpen, a lot of speculation in Houston that's where the Astros will look to improve their club.
Mm-hmm.
Not that their bullpen is a weak spot by any means. In fact, John Farrell of the Red Sox believes it's the bullpen that has the Astros where they are right now. He says, quote, their bullpen is outstanding. And they pitch to the tune of a mid-2 ERA.
Right.
So when they've got the lead, they hold it. And you look at the way their pitching has emerged both in the rotation and the bullpen, and that's why they're in first place, says John Farrell. Foul third base side. But you look at the way their bullpen is configured right now, Rick, speaking of Houston, they've got some different looks. You've got Neshek, who's a little bit funky. We've seen him. And
who's the left-hander that pitched the other night here? Let me see.
Well, they have Tony Sipp, too. Thatcher,
right. And Sipp, right. Different looks. That's what I think a manager likes, is different arm angles, different guys to come at you, where he can match up. It's always nice if you can have power arms and guys that can.
Well, their GM, Jeff Luhnow, says the one thing that they'd love to add is that flamethrower.
Well, of course, everybody wants that one.
Guy like a Kelvin Herrera that Kansas City has. Somebody like that,
Step in line. You get a ticket. Who doesn't? There's not many of those guys around.
Question is, as the runner goes on the pitch, it's hit to right field. Moss cruising back. He'll make the catch, and back to first goes Marisnik. If you find somebody who has one that's not in the race, what would it take to pry him loose?
Right.
You're not going to get Herrera because Kansas City's in first place, but, if there's a team that's maybe a second division club.
Well, there's somebody out there. There's always deals to be made because people want to improve in, different ways.
I don't know that they'd be looking to deal him because he's a closer, but Craig Kimbrell. Atlanta dealt him to San Diego. Padres are kind of out of it.
Well, I can tell you one thing, too. Toronto's looking to bolster their bullpen. They could use it. And they said they would deal a guy off their 25-man roster. So, I think this trading deadline could be very interesting and a lot of movement. Because, once again, everybody has an opportunity. I think some teams may wait till the very end before they maybe try to make a move. But there's other teams that, if you're Houston, why not beat the gun and go out there early and get somebody that you can get? If you truly believe that he can help your team.
Well, one thing Houston's not going to do. They're not going to wreck what they've spent years trying to rebuild.
Correct. I agree. They're not going to give up certain pieces that they know that they want to have. And you know what? That's all well and good. But they can go out and get somebody. With their payroll, their young team, they have the right pieces in place.
Close play at first.
A lot further ahead right now than anybody ever thought they would be this year.
Well, not only Houston, but Rick, John Hart down in Atlanta, I'm sure he probably didn't expect the Braves to be sitting there only 4 out. They're at 500. They were kind of looked at as a team that's going to be rebuilding.
How about Houston going to Philadelphia and get a Papelbon?
Swing and a miss. And a count 0-2 on Preston Tucker.
I mean, we could throw names out.
Sure.
And,
we could
say
play
different
amateur
teams.
GM with the best of them.
I know it. You know what? I think that they will do something, and it has to make sense. You don't know what the trade pieces are.
Another close play at first. Boy, Bauer's kept a sharp eye on Marisnick, who does have 11 steals, as I pointed out earlier. And he's trying to keep him very close. And he almost picked him off here. But clearly back ahead of the tag. This will be the 50th pitch of the night here for Bauer. That's going to maybe stay fair, and it will.
Oh, my goodness.
And look who's going to third. Here's the throw, almost into the dugout. Nice diving stop by Urshela. Marisnick very heads up.
Yes.
He saw Bauer and Gomes just watching it and decided to take off for third. And now the Astros have him at the corners with one out.
You know, I almost understand why they let it go, you know, because they thought it was going to hit that grass and roll foul. Bauer comes over. And he says, but then he didn't even think about what Marisnick was going to do. He's watching. Then he realizes he's off and running, and he almost throws that ball away. Great hustle. Also a good play by Urshela to save a run. I can't believe that. You would think it's going to roll foul. It comes back.
Spun back the other way.
And that really is just good hustle by Marisnick to go first to third. Now they have one out. Goes as an infield single. Weird play right there, but very heads-up play by Houston.
And Carlos Correa struck out his first time up as the batter.
Boy, they haven't given this kid much breathing room all series. They've pounded him inside.
And a foul over to the on-deck circle right by Gaddis. I'm surprised he didn't swing at it.
Wasn't high enough.
Yeah.
Trevor Bauer has thrown 14 consecutive strikes.
And they have 2 hits in the inning.
Elevated again. You got him last time elevating. He went inside a little more than that pitch. The young shortstop off to a good start with runners in scoring position. Just 20 years old.
One ball, 2 strikes. That efficiency that Trevor Bauer was looking for has eluded him thus far here tonight.
Yes, it has.
Struck out 3 in the first, but also gave up a 2-run homer to Evan Gaddis. Got him 1-2-3 in the second. But here in the third, a couple of base hits. Now he gets Correa to chase one out of the strike zone for his 4th strikeout of the night, and there are 2 down.
Boy, he has worked the young man over. That's a good pitch. He got him to chase the curveball. He elevated the fastball his first at-bat. Next time he gets that curveball.
There's our AT&T U-verse rewind.
Look at Bauer shaking his head. He can't believe he hit. I can't believe he hit that pitch. Look at this. Eye high, and I mean he got on top of it. My goodness. You will not see guys hit pitches like that out of the ballpark. That came with 2 outs in the first inning. He's in the same situation here with 2 guys on in the third.
Broke his bat, and it's foul up the first base side. Santana did a nice job to dive and stop that ball, but to no avail. Gaddis will get a new bat.
You know, it's interesting because this ball was up and away. He thought the first one was a ball, and this one was even out a little bit further. But you know what? This guy tries to hit it too. He put a good swing on it, broke his bat, could barely reach it. Santana catches it, but it's foul.
Now the 0-2. He chased one that bounced in front of the plate, and Gomes will end up tagging out Marisnick to end the inning.
Why run right into him and let him tag you? I don't understand.
Fifth strikeout for Bauer, and the Astros still lead it 2-1. As you enjoy a cold one, to stay tuned later in the game for Miller Time, brought to you by Miller Lite. Bottom of the third, Michael Bourne to lead it off for Cleveland. Bourne, then Jason Kipnis and Francisco Lindor. Tribe down 2-1. Bourne chops one to first, and a foul ball.
No, they got to tell him it's a foul ball, Bob.
Bourne's like, "What's up, man?"
They called it a foul ball. He said he's just double checking.
Well, the weird thing was, I think everybody was waiting for the home plate umpire to make the call because it was in front of the bag. But
and
it was the
his
first
call.
base umpire who actually hollered out foul ball. So that might have caught some people by surprise.
He was just giving his friend a little help.
Up and away, 2-1.
Let's check it out. There's that Hickox at first. You can see he's on the base, but he caught it in foul territory. Now, I heard somebody say foul ball. I wasn't really watching to see who put their hands up.
The 2-2. Low and away, full count. High fly ball right field. Tucker will make the catch. One away. Let's go down to Andre Knott.
You know, for Nick Swisher, he continues to push himself as much as he can. Today, as you can see right here, he was hitting the ball left-handed as well as right-handed. He's even doing drills that looks like football drills, where he's almost rounding bases and running different ways. And basically, Terry Francona says, look, he got after it today. They're going to do the same stuff on Friday. What they want to do is send him out hopefully next week during the All-Star break. And what they're trying to do is push him as far as they can now to see how much his knees can take, then figure it out next week and see if they can get him back with the ball club so he can help him out with his switch hitting ability.
Saw him taking batting practice with the guys before the game today as well. Hit one into the cheap seats during BP. But, you know, he's got to get that opportunity to go out, play, see how the body reacts.
It's been a weird year for Nick. You know,
y'all say.
You know, he had to work hard to try and come back, and by the time he comes back, maybe he came back too quickly, and now he has to settle down. Look at this. Their defense is unbelievable.
Kipnis hit that ball, and as soon as it came off the bat, he looked up and saw Rasmus standing there. It was almost as if to say, oh, not you again.
I got to tell you, their scouting reports and their defensive alignment has been unbelievable in this series. He almost cut that ball off. He was tricked on in the corner. But look at that ball is like a double down the line, you would think. But no, they've got him played that way, and it was an easy play for Rasmus. Kipnis thought he had one. He can't believe it. And when you execute your pitches and they hit it like that, you hit it right into the strike.
Seriously, have you ever seen a left fielder play where he's standing? He's standing.
That's worse than a right-handed pull hitter.
10 yards maybe from the left field line.
You know what? And they play shallow. We saw that last night. I love it. I think it's great. And look at, they keep hitting them right to the guys. There was a play last night when Rasmus was in center field. Somebody, I'm trying to think, hit a line drive right there and was right in the tracks. Let me think here. Might have been Brantley or something in the third inning. No, that was the first game.
Bouncer to second, and a routine play ends the inning. 1, 2, 3. And after 3, it's Houston 2, Cleveland 1.
The Indians will take on the A's in a weekend series. And on Friday night, stick around after the game for a Trans Am Rock Fireworks. It's presented by Wayside Furniture after the ball game. Visit Indians.com for your tickets.
Colby Rasmus will lead off the fourth inning for Houston. Struck out his only time up. Popped him up shallow left. Long run in and a diving catch by Brantley. With that shift on, Lindor with an assist to get him to his feet. It's just hard for a lot of people, normal alignment to get there. And I think Brantley realized late that he was
let's see
the
where
only
he
guy that was
starts.
going to have a. Look where Lindor came from.
That's just one of those balls that's right in the middle of three guys. At least it's caught. Michael had to go down and dive to make that catch. You're right. Lindor was way over at the other side.
It looked like Brantley was yelling at Kipnis maybe. I'm not sure why. He might have been saying, I told you he was going to hit it over here. Big Chris Carter fly to center in the second inning. Pulled off the off-speed pitch. He was sitting for a dead red fastball on the 2-0 count.
Well, again, that 2-0 count that I was telling you about earlier, Bauer has the best opposition batting average against at 128. Coming in today, for whatever reason, he never gives in. When you look at the other starters, Salazar has a 289 average after a 2-0 count. Kluber, a 292 average. Carrasco, 279. For whatever reason, Bauer's at 128. That's hard to believe.
Swung on and missed. He strikes him out. Half dozen Ks for Bauer. 2 down here in the fourth. Tomorrow night we'll bring you the finale of this series when the Astros square off against the Indians. Big Cody Anderson will go for the Tribe. Brett Overholzer will make the start for Houston. Indians Live starts our coverage at 6:30. First pitch at 7 right here on Sports Time Ohio. Also sounds like the Astros could get Chad Qualls back. Another key guy for their bullpen. He threw in a minor league rehab appearance last night. Threw 6 strikes and 9 pitches and retired all 3 batters. He's got a pinched nerve in his neck. That's what has been bothering him. So he's either going to pitch Thursday in the minors or he'll be here tomorrow night.
I'm banking he'll be here tomorrow night.
Bottom of the strike zone. A.J. Hinch also believes that Luis Valbuena could be ready to go by tomorrow night. He's been bothered by a big toe issue. Left center field, that's in the gap, and Brantley will cut it off. And Gonzalez is held to a long 2-out single. And we'll bring up Jason Castro.
That ball got in on Gonzalez a little bit. Brantley takes the deep route and will circle around it to cut it off on the backhanded side, hold him to a single.
In the air to center field. Bourne comes in. Makes the catch. We'll go to the bottom of the fourth. It's still Houston 2, Cleveland 1. Well, the Indians wishing a happy birthday to Alan Ashby from his buddy Rick Manning.
There he is.
Though it wasn't his 85th.
No, it is not. I was just messing around with him.
He doesn't seem amused.
Well, he was teammates. One of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. Alan Ashby, a former catcher here with the Indians, went to Toronto.
I think he's going to come over here and punch you.
No, he would never do the same. He would never do that. He's 60.
64.
Well, come on. I'm trying to make it up for him. I'm
just here to keep you historically accurate.
Thank you, my friend. He is one of the nicest guys. I actually came up with and spent a lot of time with Buddy Bell, and switch hitting catcher. Great guy. He does color, but on the road he also does play-by-play for the Astros.
Spent some years in Toronto with the radio team,
yes.
And then went back to Houston, where he had a lot of success. As I mentioned, he's the Astros' all-time leader in home runs by a catcher.
He caught, 3 no-hitters from 3 different pitchers. Yeah.
Nolan Ryan, Jim Scott, or Mike Scott. And
Bob Forsch.
Kenny Forsch.
Yeah. We'll get it right. First, last, hey, we'll piece it together.
Eventually.
There was a Bob Forsch, too, his brother.
Yeah, there wasn't a Jim Scott. I don't know where that came from.
Yeah, there was. Willard Scott's brother.
Jim, is it raining out there? Yep, it's wet. It's raining. Best weatherman in Topeka. Brantley flied to left in the first. His only time up. Indians only have 1 hit in the game, and that was a leadoff triple by Jason Kipnis.
Yeah.
And Dan Straley, of all people, he's dealing into the fourth. He's walked 1, struck out 1. And a pop-up.
He's over there.
And Erasmus can't reach it. Neither can Gonzalez. Just beyond the tarp.
But it is amazing how they play almost every left-handed hitter over there. It's almost like they're trying to force you to drill it, a gap to left center. Or try and hook it to right center. Can you do it in the air?
Now, so far, the Indians have 2 ground ball outs on the right side of the infield.
Yeah.
1 to the left side, 1 to the pitcher, and a couple of fly balls to left, 1 to right.
Lindor has been the guy to roll over on him. But he hit that 1 in the first inning when he drove in a run very hard.
Yes.
1 hopper. Well, here you go. Get the leadoff man on.
Out of play. .50 pitches in, 32 for strikes from Dan Straley. Our stat of the game brought to you by Buick. Michael Brantley, 37 games he's had an RBI. So he has been the guy when there have been opportunities. And as I pointed out, since the start of 2013, so the last 2 full seasons plus half of this year, he has batted .370 with runners in scoring position. That's a long period of time to be that clutch. And there's a leadoff single to start the fourth. Brian McCann, Josh Donaldson, they've done it in 36 games. Teixeira, Albert Pujols.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
I know you get opportunities, but Brantley's been as consistent. He's been the only one, really, that you can say has been consistent like that for the Indians. Got a couple other guys hitting okay with runners in scoring position. They just haven't had any luck at it throughout the lineup being consistent.
Now, the 4-5-6 has been a revolving door trying to find the right combination. Santana's had his struggles.
Well,
they've gone with the platoon of Murphy and Rayburn in that 4-hole for a number of games. Gomes has been hurt a lot, so he missed a chunk of the year.
Yeah, that's the big problem, that number 4 hole, or a guy that can really, consistently drive you runs in.
Well, let's see if Murphy can keep it rolling here. And a foul right back. Well, last night he was 2 for 3 with a double. And this was key. Over the head of Tucker into right field. You'll notice Tucker tonight not playing nearly as shallow against Murphy.
That's true.
Well, last night he got burned.
Also, you have a guy last night was throwing a lot harder, a different style pitcher than you have out there tonight.
And yet still, Rasmus is over toward the line, shallow and left. Marisnik over in the left center. And Tucker's a good 100 feet off the line and right. Out of play. Murphy clobbers it down the line. Long run for Tucker from where he had him played. Brantley will still have to hold at third even with the bobble by Tucker, who overshoots everybody on the way in. But the Indians are now set up, second and third, nobody out.
Well, that's a good job by Murphy, but I'll tell you what, it's sort of a mistake here because Straley throws a changeup down and in. Now they're playing and shifting him all the other way.
Look where the
You're
catcher
going
is set
against.
up.
I mean, he misses his location, and that's what happens. You go against the grain of the defense, so he didn't execute his pitch right there. You speed up his bat with the changeup. He hit it into the corner. The Indians take advantage of it. So now, second and third, and nobody out. Golden opportunity.
And this is where Carlos Santana has got to try and come through. A 181 mark on the year with runners in scoring position. Ground out to first his first time up. Even that here would tie the game.
Yeah, any way to get that runner in from third base and tie the game. Fly ball, ground ball, it doesn't matter. If you can roll it over to the right side of the infield, you get Murphy to third base, that would be great. Base hit, doesn't matter. Just get one in.
Astros lead it 2-1, but the Indians have it set. Second and third, nobody out. 1-0 pitch. And that one floats over the outside corner.
1 for 8 the first time through the lineup. They're now 2 for 4. There it is. Good job. You get him in, get him over, and you get the RBI. You have a tie ball game. That's the way to go.
And now the go-ahead run is at third with only one out. Brantley comes home. Santana with his 37th RBI on the year.
A very productive out.
Now Houston will bring the infield in. And Yan Gomes, who grounded out to third, is first time up. Will try to punch one through or drive a ball to the outfield. Here's the set. I was just thinking, in these situations, normally as a hitter, what do you say? Look for a pitch you can elevate. But Yan Gomes is a low ball hitter.
That's okay. He knows the ones he can hit in the air, so you look for your zone. you know, you're right. You don't go against your strength. If you have a tough time handling that, hit that ball you can hit in the air. He knows it. See, that one he got on top of, and it was a high fastball. See, he could punch himself right now for that because he's a better low ball hitter. He can just serve it out there when it's served down, so he should look down in the zone. Know thyself, as Charlie Manuel used to say.
So with 2 down, Murphy still at third, and Brandon Moss to the plate. Walked his first time up. Astros will swing 3 infielders to the right side. He is not giving in. First pitch was 83, the second was 83, and Moss was out in front of both of them. More than likely, this pitch will not be in the strike zone.
So far, it doesn't have to be.
One ball, 2 strikes. Murphy, the go-ahead run is at third. 2 down. 4th inning. 1-2 pitch. Strikes him out. Indians get a run on 2 hits. They leave a runner at third. 4 complete. We're tied at 2. Your Northern Ohio Honda dealers. By the Cleveland Clinic. Call for an appointment today. And by the game-changing all-new Ford F-150. The future is tough. 2-2, 5th inning. For Houston, Jake Marisnick will lead it off. He's the number 9 hitter. Then we go to the top of the order, and Jose Altuve and Preston Tucker.
Well, golden opportunity for the Tribe. They did tie it up, though. So we'll see if Trevor Bauer can go out there and shut him down this inning. Give him a chance to come right back in and try and score again.
In there for a strike. In the air left field, Brantley. On the run on the warning track. Pulls it down. One away.
Well, pregame in the right field district Friday as the Indians take on Oakland. Fans can get 12-ounce Budweiser Bud Light cans for $2 from 5 to 7. Stay around for the postgame fireworks. Tickets are going quickly. Get them at Indians.com/tickets.
Top of the order, Jose Altuve, who has singled, stolen a base, and scored a run.
Well, I'll tell you, Bauer did some carving that second time through the lineup. He gave up 2 hits, 2 for 9, through 29 pitches, but 23 strikes. He had that string of, 14 consecutive strikes working.
High fly ball. This sends Brantley on the run again. Shy of the warning track this time. 2 down. Our player profile brought to you by Levin Furniture. Preston Tucker played for Florida. I mentioned that earlier in the series. He was a 7th-round pick of the Astros. And he's their all-time leader in just about any meaningful statistical category you can think of in baseball for the Gators. And his younger brother is now in the Astros system.
Mike Roach would know that, wouldn't he? That was his favorite player.
Francisco Lindor throws him out, and Bauer flies through the 5th on 6 pitches.
Enjoy the new family deck and expanded kids clubhouse at KeyBank Kids Fun Day. That'll take place Sunday out at Progressive Field. Kids, you can run the bases after the ball game. Visit Indians.com for your tickets.
Bottom of the 5th. Gio Urshela, Michael Bourne, and Jason Kipnis here in the 5th inning. Urshela struck out his only time up back in the 2nd. Whoa, bat goes flying over the dugout into the seats.
Didn't we see him do that a few games ago?
I think it was down in Tampa, Rick.
Was it Tampa? Okay, I think you might be right. Well, it looks like everything's okay. It looks like he's standing on the ball. You know, he can have that stroke and take it to right field. He's got that pull stroke working right now. He's going to have to stay back a little longer on Straley. Let him keep the bat.
All right, back.
That was a better swing.
I believe Gio has said the fan can keep the bat.
Yeah, why not?
Sometimes guys want them back if it's a game or if they've been having success with it. He'll trade it out.
It's got a little
swap them.
sentimental value. It's got a lot of hits in it. But it's stuck to his chest. He should be able to keep it.
Excuse me, can I? You have to give me the jacket too. It's stuck.
Right. Well, the pine tar
chased one in the dirt.
Boy, he's got him swinging at air tonight.
Second strikeout of Urshela by Straley. Third in the game for the Astros right-hander. And there's one down. In-game summary brought to you by your Toyota dealers. Houston struck in the first with a 2-run homer by Evan Gattis that was up around his eyeballs. Francisco Lindor brought home Jason Kipnis, who tripled to lead off the bottom of the first. Tribe tied it with an RBI ground out in the fourth that plated Michael Brantley.
Yeah, I'm still amazed by that home run by Gattis.
Pitch outside. Swung on and missed. He took something off. Boy, he's done that all night long.
Yeah, he's anywhere from 89 to 82. He's not giving you much. He's just sinking it, cutting it, throwing a little hook. You have to be patient.
Bourne rung up. Fourth strikeout for Straley. 3 in a row now in the game.
I think sometimes a lot of guys, you'd rather face a guy that's going to come at you with fastballs and challenge you. And let's go. See what you got. These guys that, mix and match and they add, subtract, they take it off. You can see he's been very efficient. Fourth inning. When they scored their runs, he had to work a little harder. He had his 23-pitch inning, but he got out of it and minimized the damage with only 1 run.
Inside ball 1. Kipnis with a triple and a run scored in the first. And then he scorched one in the third, but Rasmus, who's standing almost on the foul line, made the catch back in the third.
Their defensive alignment here has been now you get them to roll over on one.
1, 2, 3. The Indians go quickly in the fifth, and we still are tied at 2. Time now to tweet your strongest fan photo. Use the hashtag STODataStrongFan, and you just might see yourself in an upcoming telecast brought to you by T-Mobile. We go now to the 6th inning. 2-2 our score. Carlos Correa, Evan Gattis, and Colby Rasmus due up for Houston. Correa 0 for 2 has struck out twice on the night.
Sort of a typical Cleveland-Houston game, huh? That's the way it's gone this year for the most part.
Other than the opener of this series, every other game has been low scoring. Bauer, Rick, has made 76 pitches, 70% strikes.
Yeah, he went through that second inning breezing, that second time through.
I think Tom Bochenek has run out of pencils in the back. He says Bauer, last 38 pitches, 32 strikes.
There you have it. You talk about finding yourself, locking in, and commanding the baseball. He's done just that. And that's what Andre was saying earlier in the game. You know, he was efficient. If he wants to go deeper into the ball games, more than 6 innings, he wants to go 9, he has to be more efficient. You got to prove you can throw strikes, and he's doing that.
Rounded right at Lindor. Throws out Correa, 1 down. Let's go down to Andre, who has more on tribe right-hander Trevor Bauer.
You know, we see Trevor Bauer every 5th day on the mound, and I don't think we take his style as herky-jerky. But Andrew McCutchen of the Pirates said after the game Friday night, he says, you know what, with him, you got to throw out his wind-up and all that other stuff, and you just got to pick up the ball. He said, I felt like I picked it up well from him because every teammate came back to the dugout, and they complained that he was deceptive because of his wind-up. Now, I don't know about you guys, but he never seems herky-jerky to me. Maybe it's because we see him every day.
Well, it's not when you think about all the other pitchers in the game, Andre. Some guys start from the stretch. Think of Carrasco, no windup, comes from the stretch. A lot of guys are just that little kick now.
David
He's
Price.
got more of a bigger windup. I don't perceive him as being herky-jerky, but I could see how hitters might.
He has more movement than most.
Right. See, he picks up that front leg pretty quickly and throws it out there. He's got a little more maybe movement for deception than a lot of other pitchers, I would think. Yeah, McCutchen doesn't have problems picking up many.
Breaking ball. Did you see Gomes, the way he caught that? Another ball that bounced well in front of the plate. And watch Jan just grab this on the backhand out of the dirt.
Well, he swung at one like this the last at bat. Yeah, that's just a
That's
lucky
not
grab.
one you see very often.
No, that's a lucky grab. It stays in. Got a piece of it. This guy, the eye-high homer in the first inning for their 2 runs. You have to be very strong to do something that he did.
Down low. Breaking ball, he got him to chase that one in the dirt and strikes him out. That's 7 strikeouts for Bauer. And that's 6 in a row retired by the Indians right-hander.
Nice job of bouncing that ball and getting him to chase your pitch.
That's 100 strikeouts now on the season, so the Indians have 4 starters who all have at least 100 strikeouts on the season. First team in Major League history to do it before the All-Star break.
That's pretty impressive.
Swing and a miss by Colby Rasmus, who is 0 for 2 on the night. Right field. Moss comes in, makes the catch. Another quick inning for Trevor Bauer. He's retired 7 straight Astros hitters.
Will receive a Sandy Alomar jersey courtesy of Medical Mutual Saturday, plus the post-game fireworks will be set to follow. It's on 80s music after the Tribe takes on the A's. That game starts at 6:35. We may have to stay to that one, the 80s music. You were big on that, right? I know you listened to it in your car.
That's the big 80s, my man.
Yeah. 80s on 8.
Martha Quinn rocks. Francisco Lindor fouls one back. Lindor drove in a run in the first with a ground out. He's 0 for 2 on the evening. He's trying to bunt his way aboard, but no dice. Count stays 1-2.
I don't know what kind of pine tar these guys are using where the bat's flying out of their hands. Or if they're using any at all.
Right field and right into the tracks of Tucker. One away. Well, as we mentioned earlier, it's Miller time, brought to you by Miller Lite. On this date, 1997, the All-Star game right here in Cleveland, and Sandy Alomar sends one to the bleachers and left, making the American League the winner. He was named the game's most valuable player.
What a day. What a year. 1997.
Did you go to the game that year?
I did not.
I was sitting out there for about the first 2 or 3 innings, but then I had to go back to work.
Oh, yeah, okay. No, but I was watching it.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. I think, wasn't it was it the same year the NBA All-Star Game was here as well? They had the 50 greatest players in NBA history were here.
Yes, it was.
That was a phenomenal event as well. I mean, all the same year. Brantley bounces one weakly to second. Altuve throws him out. 2 down. Time for a Mazda game break. Let's send it to Al Pulowski.
Hey, Matt, Rick, let's head to Chicago South Side. White Sox Blue Jays tonight. Bottom of the first inning. White Sox score 3, aided in part by this 2 RBI double by Adam LaRoche. But Toronto has just come back and scored 3 of their own in the top of the third. We're even at 3 in Chicago. Blue Jays and White Sox. Guys?
Doesn't take Toronto long to score 3.
David Murphy takes a strike over the outside corner. Murphy doubled to right field his last time up, and that led to the Indians tying the game. Brantley had led off the inning with a single, and the Astros had that outfield shift on. They were way over toward left and left center field, and Murphy crossed him up, got a changeup that went down and in, and he pulled it down the right field area. So second and third after that knock, you see they're not nearly as shifted for Murphy this time around.
Well, that's what happens. You beat him once, but that was some lack of location. There it was again. They threw him the changeup, but that time he had him out in front of it, and it was in a little better location.
Indians go in order. We'll head to the 7th, still deadlocked at 2. Kia. Visit mykiacleveland.com to learn more. By Levin Mattress, located in all Levin furniture and freestanding locations. And by AT&T Uverse, has more channels on the go than cable. Two our score. Seventh inning, beautiful night. A little cool for July 8th at game time, 67 degrees, but the breeze has died down. Another great pitchers matchup. And a sky-high pop right there near the plate.
Does he see it?
Gomes.
Yes.
Bobbles it, makes the catch. He hung on, one away.
Oh, I'll bet he panicked. He got it in the glove, and then it hits him in the shoulder. He gets it on the hand, and then he corrals it. Look at the look he's thinking, oh, my goodness.
8 in a row retired by Bauer. 12 out of the last 13 Astros have been set down. He has struck out 7 on the night. And a curveball misses outside to Marwin Gonzalez. Down the left side, but that's going to slice down into the corner, foul. Brantley will retrieve it. A 1-ball, 2-strike count. With 1 out here in the 7th. Indians Astros deadlocked at 2.
Yes, he did.
They appeal. He did not.
Oh, my goodness.
Dana DeMute, third base umpire, said he held up.
From our angle, it looked like he did. He thought about it. He's having a little clubhouse meeting with himself right now, trying to stay back and lay off that curveball.
Another slap down the left side. Both bullpens are quiet at the moment, but we might get some action. It looks like the Astros have a pitcher up, but not throwing yet.
Yeah, you get to this point in the game, and they just start moving around, getting the blood flowing.
Strike 3 called. Bauer rings up Marwin Gonzalez. That's his 8th strikeout of the night. Gonzalez has words with home plate umpire Paul Nard, who says, take a walk.
Well, the funny thing was he was talking to himself about not chasing that curveball in the dirt. So what's Bauer do? He throws one for a strike that he doesn't have to chase. He takes it, and it's called. He starts this one out a little bit higher, and there it is. That's a pretty darn good pitch. Not a good pitch to hit.
Fly ball, right field. In comes Moss. Makes the catch. 1, 2, 3 go the Astros on 8 pitches. And we've reached the 7th inning stretch, tied at 2. It's brought to you by Spitzer Auto World. And Total Car Care coming up next. We go to the bottom of the 7th. Carlos Santana, Yan Gomes, Brandon Moss due for Cleveland. Santana tied the game with an RBI ground out in the 4th. He'll lead it off 0 for 2, 3 for 9 in the series.
And you talk about efficiency. Both pitchers have been very efficient. 12 of Bauer's 21 outs have come on 3 pitches or less. Straley's 10 of his 18, 3 pitches or less.
And he's only made 90 pitches on the night going into this inning. But the Astros have double barrel action now firing in their bullpen. Rio pitch. Ball 4. Walked him on 4 straight. And up comes Yan Gomes.
Second walk for Straley tonight. This one a leadoff walk. Now this is where, when you're the Indians, you got this team in your home ballpark. It's a tie game. This is where you want to push a run across. You want to come back. These are the games you have to win at home. Take advantage of. They had a nice opportunity back in the 4th. Straley was able to pitch around it. Got a big out, and it was Gomes. He was able to get to ground out to short with a man on third and less than 2 outs. Now they're trying to restructure and set their defense on the infield with Gomes hitting.
Hit him.
Well,
so the first 2 are aboard, and A.J. Hinch might have a decision to make now.
Yes, he does.
2 on, nobody out. Brandon Moss coming to the plate. A.J. Hinch is going to the bullpen.
Didn't take him long, did it? Boy, I'll tell you, the 4-pitch walk and then the first pitch hits Gomes. On 5 pitches, he puts the first 2 guys on base. And let's go. That's a rally. Get it started.
Interesting. You got Brandon Moss coming up, left-handed hitter. It looked like A.J. Hinch signaled for a right-hander. Not 100% sure. We'll check to see. It's the Cleveland Clinic call to the bullpen. Straley's out after 6 innings plus 2 batters in a tie game. All right, the new pitcher for Houston is a right-hander. It's Will Harris. He's 30, be his 34th appearance. of the year. Look at that ERA, 0.93.
Yeah, you know what? That is amazing. You said he was going to the right-hander to face the left-hander. Yeah, 0.98 there. Left-handers are hitting off of him. Look at that. So he's coming on. He has first and second. There's nobody out. He's allowed just 4 earned runs, but he's trying to stop the inherited runners that are out there that Straley put on 5 pitches. He walked Santana on 4. He hit Gomes with the first pitch. So the Indians have the inning set up for him. Try and crack this tie.
Moss takes. It's in there for a strike. Big curveball.
Good curveball.
What is it? I mean, we haven't seen a lot of it. Why would he be so effective against left-handers?
Well, I was going to say either it's a great changeup. That's a very good curveball right there. The first pitch was a fastball 92. I don't know. I haven't seen the guy. I'm trying to find out, but I mean, his overall numbers are unbelievable. He's trailing just Wade Davis and Mark Lowe as far as ERA goes. Lowe's down to having an unbelievable year in Seattle. And we all know what Wade Davis can do. And he trails those two, and that's it. So there's got to be something special.
In the dirt. Well, Harris has pitched for the Rockies, the Diamondbacks, and now the Astros. He was originally a 9th-round pick in 06 of Colorado out of LSU.
Well, to me, it's got to be that curveball from what I've seen to this point, and Moss didn't chase that one. Good fastball down and away. Tried to paint the outside corner.
Well, the Indians trying to break through here in the 7th. What an opportunity. 2 on, nobody out. Brandon Moss trying to deliver. Up and away. Full count. Here we go, the payoff pitch. And Moss pulls it foul.
That looked like a little cutter to me. That one was at 91. It looked like a down and in cutter. Take a look at it, see if it has any run to it. They wanted it away. That glove was up and away for Moss. It went down and in. Got the foul ball. Takes a little jog out there, has his say. I thought he was going to try and throw the curveball, to be honest with you, but he has to throw a striker. You can't walk him.
And again, the payoff pitch and a foul back.
That's where they wanted the fastball last time, up and away. So a nice battle going on here between Moss and Harris.
No, Moss walked back in the 2nd inning, struck out with a runner in scoring position in the 4th inning. But this is huge because this could send this inning one way or the other in a hurry.
Yeah, it sure can.
Popped up, foul, and it's out of play. Gonzalez a long look, but no chance.
He hasn't messed around. He's come right at him with fastballs, and Moss has fouled him off.
No.
So he hangs in there to live for another pitch and hope you get one you like.
This will be the 10th pitch of the at-bat. Carlos Santana, the go-ahead run, is at second base. Gomes at first. And the 3-2 is swung on and missed.
Boy, that was the pitch down and in. It had movement, but he makes a good one, and he wins the battle against Moss. He went down and in. This one was in more than the other one he fouled off, Matt. You know, I don't know if that's like a hard cutter. I don't know. It's hard to say, but, boy, that's a nasty pitch right there. It was a ball. Moss helps him out, and they get the first out. Tough one to lay off.
Going to bring up Giovanni Urshela, who is 0 for 2 and has struck out twice tonight. Slug to left. Back goes Rasmus. Makes the over-the-shoulder catch, and Santana has to retreat to second base. Oh, man, he had him turned around, and Rasmus literally just threw his glove up, and it went in.
Well, you can't hit a ball any harder than Urshela did right there. And when you get a guy turned around, it was right into his, he turned around and he's left-handed. So you can see the ball hit sharp. Once you turn like that, that's a scary situation. That's a line drive. That's not a fly ball. So he didn't have much time to pick it up, and it goes right into the webbing. But boy, oh boy, did he turn on that one. And boy, oh boy, that's a tough break.
So 2 down. Michael Bourne, the batter. 0 for 2 on the night. You know, Will Harris is a guy who he got drafted by the Rockies in 06. 3 years later, it looked like his career might be over. He underwent not only Tommy John ligament surgery, but also had to have microfracture surgery.
Oh, man.
At the same time.
Oh.
Right back to him. Flips it to first. Oh, man. Indians have 2 on, nobody out, but they cannot get a run across, and we stay tied at 2. Indians and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cleveland Indians.
What a job.
Will Harris did an incredible job.
Yes, he did. Came in, and I'll tell you, Moss had a very good at-bat. He ended up winning that battle. Urshela hits a line drive. Rasmus makes the play, and he gets out of it.
So Trevor Bauer goes back to work here in the 8th inning facing Jake Marisnick. He's retired 10 in a row and 14 out of the last 15 Astros hitters. And this one's fouled back out of play.
Yeah, this has been a good start by Bauer. At home, something that we wanted to see. And, you know, his last 2 starts in the month of June were struggling, but this is one of his better ones.
Al gave us a report a little while ago about that Blue Jays-White Sox game in Chicago.
Right.
They're tied 4-4 in the 4th. Really odd story came out today. The Houston Chronicle citing a report out of Chicago. Remember in 05 it was the Astros and the White Sox in the World Series.
Yeah.
Don Cooper told CSN Chicago that in the 7th inning of Game 3 of that World Series, Burley walked up to Don Cooper with a styrofoam cup in his hand. And Cooper looked in the cup, and there was beer in the cup. And he thought it was a little strange that even though Burley's a starter, so he's not like he's coming out of the bullpen or anything, but he, according to Cooper, Burley later asked him if he was going to need him to pitch, and Cooper jokingly responded, "Heck no, we're trying to win the game. We don't want you in there." And he also said that it was not necessarily uncommon that for starters, when they weren't pitching, to have a beer from time to time. But just really strange the timing of the story that comes out while Burley and the Blue Jays are in Chicago to play the White Sox.
And that was 2005?
Yeah.
It's 10 years ago.
Well, why would Don Cooper reveal that now,
I have no
all
idea.
these years later?
I have no idea.
Strange one. And then it ends up in the Houston Chronicle. Altuve lines one to left, 2 down.
That is, it's really
Strange.
weird. I mean, it may come out in the off season or sometime like that, and well before 10 years, a decade passes. I don't know.
And what's the point? I mean, it doesn't paint Burley in that good of a light, and yet, you know, if he guy's not pitching, he's just watching the World Series game. I don't know.
Maybe we'll
strange.
find out more. To be.
Yeah. Preston Tucker is 1 for 3 on the night. Breaking ball and a good one by Bauer.
Bauer's had good stuff tonight. You know, think about it. The 2 runs that Houston scored was on a pitch that was eye-high to Gaddis, and he hit it out. And I still have a hard time believing it. That's it. Other than that, he scattered a couple of singles and has been great. Hasn't allowed a hit since a 2-out single in the 4th.
That fastball took off. Bauer trying to get to double digits in strikeouts for the first time since May 29th, when he struck out 10 Mariners.
Yeah, his career high was 11, and his start that was in 6 innings back in Houston to start the year.
That's in the hole. Broke his bat, but he's got another base hit.
He can find a way to get hits. I'm impressed with this kid.
That's 8 hits in the first 3 games of the series.
You know, for Trevor Bauer, there's a strikeout. Now watch this pitch here. Man alive. Look at, he's shaking his head. He can't believe it. I can't believe it. And that's the only 2 runs that he's just been dealing.
That has really been it.
So, you know, you can't say, sometimes you can say, hey, one pitch can beat me, a bad pitch. That was not a bad pitch, and it's not going to beat him, but it's the only 2 runs he's allowed.
Oh, my mom used to say, sometimes you get the bear, sometimes the bear gets you.
That's the white bear that got him.
El Oso Blanco got him in the first inning. But then he came back and he had struck him out the last 2 times he's faced him.
He bounced a couple of curveballs on him, right.
Mickey Callaway out to talk with Carlos Correa coming up. Bauer's just over 100 pitches.
Shaw's back up there, I see.
I think this was more of a let's give the bullpen a little time to get loose just in case we need to go to him here. This wasn't really a we need to go talk to Trevor Bauer meeting.
No, just to slow it down a little bit. And, well, yeah, you're right. Let the bullpen get warm.
I got a feeling this is his last batter, one way or the other. Correa has struck out twice and grounded to short. Up and in, off the glove of Gomes, almost got loose, but runner at first, Tucker had to hold.
Well, here's one up and in, and they've stayed in, but boy, that was close to the arm, wasn't it? How did he get out of the way of that?
That breaking ball is hammered down the left field line, but foul. Well, he hit it hard.
Well, he came back with a breaking pitch. Now, and it was a hanging one. He got away with it. Let's see the location. They want it away. Look at that's middle in. That was a spinner, and he was waiting for it, boy. Sometimes, you wake a guy up, you throw one up and in, and all of a sudden you're thinking, okay, now go ahead. Throw me that breaking ball away, but he hung it. That's the one you want to bounce. You certainly don't want to, especially at this point in the ball game. He's worked so hard, and he's had such good stuff today. 9 strikeouts, hasn't walked anybody. How about that? No walks.
Bouncer to Kipnis. Look to second. He'll take the easy out at first, and the inning is over. And Trevor Bauer cruises through the 8th. Still deadlocked at 2. Two as we go to the 8th inning, bottom of the 8th. Baseball's best players will be on the field in Cincinnati with home field advantage for the World Series on the line. Tuesday night, 7 Eastern on Fox, streaming live on Fox Sports Go. It's the 2015 MLB All-Star Game. Trevor Bauer looks like his night is over after 8 innings of work. And the Indians will try to put him in line for a win if they can get a run across here in their half of the 8th inning. For Cleveland, top of the order, Jason Kipnis, Francisco Lindor, and Michael Brantley.
Look at that, no walks. Only the 3rd time this year Bauer has not had a walk. 9 strikeouts, very efficient. Good ball game by Trevor at home. He needed that. Tribe needed it, but now they got to find a way to push another run across. They only have 3 hits on the night.
Joe Thatcher, left-hander, will come on to pitch here in the 8th. After Will Harris got all 3 outs in the 7th, came on with 2 men on base. And went 1, 2, 3.
You talk about all herky-jerky, all arms and legs, and not seeing a lot of baseball. That's Thatcher right here. We saw him in the first game of the series. Went a third of an inning. Had a couple of walks. Did not have command. Indians 9-9 on the year in one-run ball games. Houston 12-12.
Kipnis fouls it out of play. And he got him. One down here in the 8th.
Well, Will Harris came into the 7th, first and second, and nobody out. He was able to get Moss to strike out. A line drive off the bat of Urshela. It turns Rasmus around. He makes a nice play, and then a one-hopper back to himself to get out of the inning. Did a nice job to keep those runners stranded, keep it a 2-2 game.
Lindor fouls it straight back. Ran in off the plate. Broke his bat down the left field line. Fair ball, maybe extras. Rasmus cuts it off. Fires towards second base. Here's the slide and the tag. He is safe. Lindor with a one-out double.
Good hustle, good play all the way around. With one out, I'd like to see him try and go for two. He put his head down right out of the box. The ball, it cracked his bat. Rasmus made a beautiful play to stop, plant, turn around, and throw. He throws a strike. Those guys are going to hold on a second and see, but no, it looks like he got his hand in. Tell you, he made it awfully close. But that's a really good hustle play on both sides. Watch him go out of the batter's box. Put your head down and go, baby. You're thinking two. And I'll tell you, Rasmus made a nice play to get there, make a nice throw. Good baseball right there.
So the Indians have the go-ahead run in scoring position, but they had him there last inning too with nobody out and couldn't get him home. This time, though, they've got Dr. Smooth.
Well, I think that was just a chat, going over Brantley right there. Quick run out there. You've got Murphy on deck, and if this is the case, you'll see Rayburn. If Brantley gets on, I would think if Thatcher's out there, but then they've got their right-handed Nishak throwing in their bullpen. Side armor.
Way outside and a nice stab by Castro.
That would have been nice. This one wide of the mark. Boy, give me third, please. Lindor was looking all the way. The Indians with 4 hits, 3 of them extra base hits. 2 doubles, triple. I don't think they want any part of Michael right here.
So you got to figure, Rick, if this holds true, they walk Brantley.
It's going to be
Tito goes to Rayburn.
Well, it's going to be, what does Tito want? Does he want Murphy to face Thatcher, or does he want Rayburn to face Nishak? That's going to be the matchup. Whatever he wants. He knows because it doesn't look like they're going to throw Michael. They're going to try and get him to swing at a bad pitch. And
that happens more often. Oh, he balked him to third.
Hold on. They're saying timeout. They're saying no, there was time.
Okay.
That's what he was saying. There was time.
I think the home plate umpire
had time.
Had time.
Yes, he did. His hand was up, and I'm sure. It's all right. Good try.
See, the second umpire, Mike Esterick, that's who I was watching. He signaled the balk, but what nobody saw was the home plate umpire had already called for time.
There was a little flinch on his front arm. See, there's
Brantley.
time.
Oh, man, that's almost at the exact same moment.
Yeah, it's close, but you know what? The umpire was going to give it to Brantley in his mind, I'm sure.
Yeah.
He knew.
Outside 3-0.
This is just like an unintentional, intentional walk. But you give Brantley the green light here in case he throws him a hanger. No question. So we'll see what matchup Tito wants to go with.
So the intentional walk. David Murphy's coming to the plate, so Terry decides he wants Murphy to go up against Thatcher rather than Rayburn against Neshek. Murphy on the year is a respectable 3 for 9 against the left-handed pitchers.
Well, Murphy's gotten some big hits. And you know what? This doesn't surprise me that he wants to go with Murph Dog.
He's been one of the Indians' better hitters with runners in scoring position.
Had one of the 2 RBIs last night, and you know what? Just stay back on that breaking ball.
Thatcher does not want Lindor to steal third on him right here.
Right, but he knows this guy can be wild enough. He could walk Murphy. He could throw a wild pitch. There you go.
Murphy with a fly ball deep right field. Back goes Tucker, still going back. It's over his head. Hits off the wall. Back towards the infield. Lindor scores. Brantley coming around third. He'll try to score 2. Throw to the plate. Save. David Murphy drives in a pair, and the Indians lead it 4-2.
How do you like the gut feeling now by Tito? He went up there and let Murphy go up, and he proved that once again he was ready for it. Jumped on that first pitch and hit a line drive. I love it. That's a gut feeling right there that pays off. This is going to be our McDonald's. I'm loving it. Murphy kept the hands back, hit a line drive off the wall. It'll be his 12th double, and you can't get a hit at any bigger time than he does right there. Gives the Indians a 4-2 lead. How sweet is that?
Well, Preston Tucker ran himself right into the wall trying to catch that ball. And the Indians end up scoring 2 to take the lead. David Murphy now 4 for 10 against left-handed pitching on the year. He comes up with a huge hit here in the 8th to deliver the lead for Cleveland, and we've got a timeout. bringing the lumber. And here in the 8th inning, Francisco Lindor brought the lumber to start with the double down on left field line. And it was a hustle double.
Yes, it was.
Rasmus made it a close play. And then David Murphy gets the left-hander with a 2-run double to right field to put the Indians in front 4-2.
Well, I like that. They only had 3 hits in the game. They have 2 doubles in this inning, and I just like the gut feeling there where Tito left Murphy in to face that left-hander, and he burns him. Drives in a pair. He's been a clutch hitter for the Indians, I think, probably just right behind Brantley. It's been those 2 guys, the keys. He does it again tonight. Add another one.
Pat Neshek delivers, and Santana takes a strike.
You get to that number 2, 4 runs.
One on one to count. That number has been magical. Indians score 4 or more. Their record is 31-11.
Well, what it does, you get 2 runs for Bauer, who went out there and pitched 8 innings. He has a chance to win this game now.
Yes, indeed. Cody Allen, who was not available last night, is getting loose in the bullpen. He had some back stiffness that he was trying to work his way through, and he is ready to go tonight. Santana off the glove of Neshek, throw to first. Santana is out number 2. I think it just literally ripped Neshek's glove right off his hand. But he appears to be all right.
Boy, he's probably scared more than anything else. That was a vicious line drive coming right back at him. Here's a great look at it. Right there, get down. At his head, yeah, he just deflected it. Self-defense.
Wow.
Nice shot, Kerry. Holy smokes, that thing gets there in a hurry.
Yeah, he might need a moment to gather himself. 2 down. Yan Gomes will be the batter. Gomes hit by pitches last time up. He has grounded out twice on the night. Astros shift 3 to the left side of the infield. And a breaking ball over the inside corner. Hit foul up the first base side. Boy, if that had stayed over the bag, that would have been nice.
Looked like, he was trying to guide it that way.
Well, they one guy on the right side of the infield.
I know it. You get a ball over there, and if it's down enough, he served one out to right field like that yesterday.
Murphy the runner at third with 2 down. Tried to hold up, but he went around. Inning over. David Murphy delivers in the 8th. Indians score 2 off the Astros bullpen to take a 4-2 lead. Now Cody Allen will try to close it out in the 9th. how he just got his glove up in time to save himself some serious damage. Lucky they can laugh about it now because that was close to being ugly.
Well, it was self-defense.
Yeah.
Is what it was. But, you know, he reacted and he got rid of it. And you're right. So I like to see they can smile about it. But the Indians now just 3 outs away.
Cody Allen will try to save it for the Indians. Mike Pocta tells me this is already Cody's third save situation in July. He had 3 all of June. And we invite you to stay tuned for Indians Live, presented by Conrad's Tire Express and Total Car Care, coming up next. He's got the 4, 5, and 6 hitters due up here in the night. As we look back at our keys to the game, brought to you by Wayside Furniture. The Astros scored first tonight. The Indians, 15 come from behind wins this season, trying to make it 16. Bauer finally had some home cooking go his way tonight. Pitched really well. That had not been the case for the most part for Trevor at home this year for whatever reason. And now Cody goes to work. And Gaddis takes a breaking ball for strike 1. Probably not was what he was expecting there. Lays off. It's low and away, 1-1.
Well, even if the big guy gets into one, he still needs somebody aboard. With that 2 runs they added, it's a 2-run lead. So Cody's got something to play with here.
You watch Evan Gaddis, Rick, and it's almost like John Daly. You can't help but watch because you just don't know what you might see, because he doesn't leave anything to the imagination when he turns it loose. The 1-2 over his head on a breaking ball.
Well, Cody just tried to throw one of the best curveballs he's ever thrown and maybe bounce it, and he got away from him right there. Up and away, watch. Slips out of the hand. You don't want to make a mistake, and if you have to, you bounce it.
That breaking ball just missed. Whew. Gaddis, it wasn't that he took it, he couldn't swing at it. It was locked up.
It was, but it started in, and it was a little high. That was a tough pitch, but you're right. If he could have hit it, he would have swung. I mean, he wanted to.
Payoff pitch. Oh, he just blew him away with a 96-mile-an-hour fastball. Reared back, threw it down in the strike zone, and said, here it is.
Yeah, I think he might have been thinking that curveball. He saw a steady diet of him in that at-bat, but it comes the heat, and he throws it by him. Look at him. He's upset with himself there, but, you know, if you look for that breaking ball, it's tough to catch up to 96. Out number 1.
Colby Rasmus 0 for 3 on the night. Got in on him, popped it back out of play. 15,255 for the third of this 4-game series. We'll be right back with you tomorrow night to wrap it up. Cody Anderson will go for Cleveland. Brett Oberholzer, the left-hander, goes for Houston. David Murphy's 2-run double has the Indians in front here in the 9th. Belt high fastball, and right by him, it's 0-2. Rasmus has homered off Cody Allen. Now the 0-2. High fly ball, shallow right. And Moss calls everybody off to make the catch. 2 down. And that will leave it up to Chris Carter, who is 0 for 3 on the night. Fastball popped him up, playable. Santana straddling the line into foul ground, and the Indians win it. 1, 2, 3 go the Astros in the 9th inning. Cody Allen nails down the save with a perfect 9th. His 17th save of the season. Trevor Bauer gets the win. He goes to 8-5 with the win. The Indians are now 40-44 on the year. They've won 2 out of 3 in the series and a chance to win it outright in the finale tomorrow night here against Houston. Losing pitcher is Joe Thatcher for the Astros. He goes to 1-3, and the Astros are now 49-40 on the season as their lead in the AL West shrinks a little bit more. Time now for our Pat O'Brien Chevrolet play of the game.
Well, David Murphy gets an opportunity to stay in and hit off a left-hander, and boy, did he make it count. A double off the right field wall to drive in 2. You get Lindor, in comes Brantley. A couple of big hits in the bottom half of the 8th inning, and that's exactly what the Indians needed. That'll be our Pat O'Brien play of the game.
Trevor Bauer with a tremendous job tonight for the Indians. Equals his career high with 8 innings of work. And the Indians get him some offense late to win it by a final of 4-2. We're back with some final thoughts right after this.